I just drew a blank. Squirrel.
Squirrel. Did you take your ginkgo bilboa or whatever this is?
No, I didn't take my ginkgo biloba. Wait, bilgoa.
You're not doing those oils, are you? Those are gateway oils.
No, I'm off the CBD oils, my friend. I'm not doing that. I'll do the cream every once in a while, but
that's a gateway cream.
Meet the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Klint Macro. Brought to you by Public Safety and Education and the Trigger Pressers Union.
This episode is brought to you by Steel City Ammunition. Can't find ammo? We've got it. We'll ship it and our prices are fair. Mountain Man Medical. The right medical training and gear should be accessible to every American. Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Meet the Pressers is also generously supported by other fine companies, ranges, and our Patreon members. Thank you.
Welcome to Meet the Pressers. My name is Klint Macro, and this is my colleague, Matthew Mallory. Meet the Pressers is a safe place for trigger pressers to congregate and talk about guns, gear, training, political activism, and sometimes religion. Today, we have a very special guest. Matt, why don't you give the introduction?
Would love to. A very good friend of mine, Gary Shank, known him for many years, co-taught with him in the past. And actually, I like to say that he's one of the reasons why I'm kind of where I'm at today, because of all the connections he's made for me. And I met him in Utah many years ago, and we both got certified at the same time as a Utah firearms instructor. So Gary Shank, Top Shot contestant from back in the day on the History Channel, as well as the current owner of Top Shot Firearms and Training. Gary, how in the heck are you?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for having me on your show.
Glad to have you. So what's new? What's cooking? How's everything going? What have you been up to these years?
Oh, classes with everything going on, civil unrest, political nightmare with any election season. All the fun. It brings lots of classes, a lot of new students that I wouldn't have probably expected to have in my classes have been popping up in the last year.
We've seen so many of those new post-COVID people that were like more PhDs, more doctors, more people who, frankly, a year ago were probably completely anti-gun. Yeah. Have you been finding that where you're at?
Absolutely. It's just remarkable how many different people have been coming to my class. And of course, they're so hesitant, but excited at the same time to kind of join our ranks. And they're finally kind of seeing our viewpoint that, with everything going on, police are overwhelmed. And what a great time to be able to defend yourself.
Either overwhelmed or defunded, right?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Overwhelmed, underfunded. There, that's a t-shirt.
That is. We should do that. Overwhelmed and underfunded. Write that down. Don't forget about that. So what now, you said lots of different courses. Which ones are your primary courses? I mean, like, I know I've got 60 courses, but I've actually started focusing on a good number that keep me busy and kind of put some of the other ones on the back burner. So what ones are your top ones right now?
Concealed carry permit classes are kind of my bread and butter. A lot of people are wanting that one-on-one training, but with COVID restrictions and masks and social distancing, all the nightmare we've all have to follow, it's really hard to do personal training with people and make it effective. I do what I have to do to keep my business running. The state's no joke about coming in and making sure that the mandates are being met and threatening huge fines. So for the most part, we keep it up pretty well, and we keep everything sanitized and keep our masks on. A little rough when you're trying to shoot with the fogging up your glasses, but we make it through.
Well, the way I look at it is, as instructors, we need to make sure that the training benefits significantly outweigh any risk. And those risks could be real, they could be perceived. And I think COVID is one of those things that is it a real risk? Sure. Is it perceived risk? Absolutely.
It's both.
But it's both. And if my client, if my customer is freaked out about COVID, then I should respect that and have some infrastructure in place. So even if it's just simply like wiping down tables with bleach, having hand sanitizer, and at least having a mask in your pocket, so if you have to work close next to someone, you could throw it on. I'm willing to do that if my client needs that. But on the other hand, like classrooms, I can spread people out. We don't have to wear a mask. I can induce airflow, and especially like an indoor range, that air is
Already
better
flowing.
air than you're going to find just about anywhere in most cases. But as you said, you have to deal with whatever the local ordinances are, and you got to keep your business open.
Absolutely. And, I like your perspective of it. If I have clients that are in fear of contamination, then yeah, I'm extra respectful and we have all those cleaning devices. But I have a lot of people that are just like, I don't have to wear that. And it goes off on the table until we absolutely need it when we're going to have these interactions on one-on-one.
Yeah.
It's nicer when the classes are smaller, though, in that case, because sometimes you'll get, at least in my experience, I'll get families or I'll get friends that'll come together that ride in the same car. And then we'll get in the room and then, and they're looking at me like, do we really have to wear the mask the whole time? And I'm like, well, there's 5 of you in the room and you all came in the same car. Did you wear your mask here? And they're like, no. And I'm like, so if I'm 6 feet from you, are you okay with me not wearing my mask? And they're like, yes. And so we kind of ebb and flow with it, but I always try to set the standard that this is the base. And then from there, depending on how people feel and such. But I think part of it too is, keeping the distance and the mask, I think might be partially helpful, but I think also people not being sick is a huge thing, and people washing their hands and using hand sanitizer a lot more. I think those two things, not going places when you're sick, washing your hands and or using hand sanitizer more frequently, I think is more that's curve this more than anything. That's just me thinking.
Yeah, I keep smaller classes anyhow. So like my average class is 6 people. And I book them out a long time, and I'll get people coming from all over the country, and they're doing plane fare and all this kind of thing and everything. And
so they're on a plane without masks or
exactly, right? Exactly. Yeah. But I'll just like you said, if you are feeling ill or if you're sick, then don't come.
Don't come. Right.
And if I've had quite a few people like, I'm just not comfortable coming because I'm freaked out, or my mom is ill and I'm staying with her, or I've got an at-risk person. It's like, cool, I carry credit. Yep. So, if you want to jump in another class down the road, I'll carry your credit. But when we do take classes and we do interact as human beings, we have to take on the responsibility as free Americans for our own personal health. I think that's important that people do that.
I'm Ian McCollum. This is the What Would Stoner Do 2020, and this is Meet the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Klint Macro.
Meet the Pressers.
Top Shot was a great experience for me, and of course it opened a lot of doors from me working for kind of big box retailers like Cabela's and such to being self-employed and being able to carry myself through. But I think Matt's being overly generous with me contributing to him. He did all the work. I met him, I think it was 7 years ago out in Utah. Like, and in fact, he came up in my memories on Facebook today. 6 years ago, we were standing at the foot of the Statue of Liberty together. So I was like, what a great day to actually reconnect here on the show. And it was a great experience. He organized Top Shot or Orange County Choppers. We got to meet Paul Sr. and look at their bikes and their manufacturing. And we had, how many students did we have, Matt? Like 200 some?
Yeah, it was up there. It was quite a bit. We did the New York course and then the multi-state, and that's how we originally met because of Utah. We were both out in Utah getting certified. And I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, wow, he looks familiar. And then I look at his shirt and I see his logo. I'm like, Top Shot. No, that's not Gary. Then I walk over, I'm like, introduce myself, and he's probably just like, it's another person introducing himself to me. And then I said, and just my mind goes, and I got to do something with this guy. I got to bring him out to New York. We got to do something and use his fame and my connections and put something really spectacular together. And that's the brainchild. We actually had to move it because we just logistics and everything didn't work out. So I think we had it scheduled for like October. We ended up doing it in March or something. I can't even remember the dates, but it was pretty cool. It was really neat. And you stayed out. We went to New York City I brought my family. And we all went down to New York City and had a fun time. Went out to the Statue of Liberty and took a tour around the city.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I had so much fun on the trip. And same thing, you introduced yourself. And I've had quite a few people actually say hi since they recognized me from the show, especially all those years ago, now that it's been almost 9 years since the show aired. Wow. And I was like, oh, he wants to do something together. It'll never happen. He's all the way out in New York. And sure enough, you're a mover and a shaker. I've been watching your career just expand and expand. So I'm super proud of you, and I'm glad I can actually be just a small part of it.
Cool. That's a testament to this whole industry, man.
True.
I spent the first 20 some almost 30 years of my professional career initially in the music industry, music and film industry. Wow. And in the last 15-ish years that I've been kind of more entrenched in the training industry, in the gun industry, I can say that the vast majority of people in this industry are very helpful and giving and willing to, help somebody see, fulfill their dreams, right? And as creative as the music and movie industry is, it's not really quite the same kind of feeling. I mean, there's good people everywhere, but
sure,
just been really, I hear stories like that from all kinds of people, how this other person helped them out. I think it's a good testament to the industry.
I agree. The shooting industry was helpful for me getting started. And, I'm glad if Matt thinks I helped him, I mean, I think he helped me just as much, but it's amazing because I see new instructors come through that indoor range that I do classes at. About once a year, they have, they call it Hell Week, and they come through and do every one of their NRA courses all at once. And, it's just amazing because they look up to me, I guess, because I'm out there teaching and I've been doing it for years now. And they're like, man, how do you get that good? I'm like, you have good stories and you practice them. There's no lack of good stories right now to tell, right, self-defense wise. So you just got to be comfortable going out there and actually being a people person. And I love helping the people actually get there.
You've shot a ton of different guns being on the show, Top Shots, right? Thinking back to that, your time is with Cabela's and Sportsman Warehouse and such. What would you say would probably be your most memorable firearm to shoot, as far as the one that maybe sucked the worst because it really tore you up, or maybe was the hardest to shoot, and then also one that was the most enjoyable to shoot?
Oh, wow. Probably the most enjoyable gun to shoot on the show was that it was an 1898 bag cannon. It's a bag gun, basically, essentially a cannon. And that gun was on San Juan Hill with Teddy Roosevelt.
No kidding.
Wow. Who knows what it was worth. And some collector let us borrow it. I'm sure he was paid for the show, but historical gun. And, I've shot cannons before, but it was just smoke, right? There's no projectiles back when I did reenactments. So that gun was probably one of the most pleasurable guns I shot, cool. But also difficult because how do you know how to aim a cannon?
Right. It's like Angry Birds. You just guess.
Exactly right. You pull it back and just fling it. But and yeah, that's kind of how we shot that cannon. But we were really, really accurate with it, so it worked out well. Probably one of the worst guns I've ever fired. I love them all, but are guns that actually tear me up. And for the audition for Top Shot, we had to shoot a Browning high power, and they notoriously like to bite your webbing on your hand. And we only fired, I think, 20 rounds total, 10 for practice and 10 for score. And man, I still have a scar in the back of my hand because I wasn't willing to miss my target, but it hurt like hell.
Wow. Okay.
That's how much I wanted on that show. I was just like, I'll let it tear me up a little bit.
Well, you got on.
Yeah, and you tore up the competition.
And you tore it
well,
up.
I did pretty good. All but that last day.
Last day. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I see you got a Tommy gun back there in the back. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's actually a 1022, believe it or not.
Really?
Oh, cool.
So now it needs a binary trigger for it, and then it'll be even more Tommy-esque. I saw that sitting at a shelf at Cabela's, and I was like, I gotta have it because it looks good on the shelf back there.
So so if that's a non-binary trigger, does that mean that it's gender fluid?
I see. I was going to go there. You beat me to it.
Yeah, that's why it's got those big round stick hanging out of it.
I love that, man. That's so cool.
Big old beard, yeah.
And we just had Frank on, and he had a sword in his backdrop too. So I see some scabbards back there, right?
Let's see. I got sword canes. I got sabers.
How many sword canes you got? You got a sword cane you'd sell?
I just tell you to go online and buy them. I think
I'm trying to find them. I couldn't find them.
They can't ship them to New York.
No, I can get one because I'm law enforcement, but I just can't find them. If you got any ideas, I mean, we don't need to take it up here, but if you know where you can find it, let me know because I'm trying to get one for my use of force class.
You don't have any floor lamps behind you. we did an episode of
Gun Jesus.
Yeah, Gun Jesus with Ian McCollum, and he had some stuff in the background, and Matt's like, what's that? And he pulled it out and he was, giving the history on it. But he had a floor lamp on the corner of the screen, and because my screen's smaller, it looked to me like an old optic. The way
okay.
Something is hanging. I thought it was a big old optic, and I said, "What's that gun over there?" And he says, "What, this one?" I said, "No, the one next to it." He says, "What, this one?" I said, "No, the one next to it." He says, "That's not a gun." I said, "Well, what is it?" He says, "It's a lamp."
And Klint got new glasses.
Yeah. I'm like, "It's a lamp,"
and I knew it
for a bigger screen.
Right, and I knew it was a lamp because I got the exact same lamp in my house. So when Klint kept saying that, I'm like, please don't think he's not talking about the lamp.
Yeah.
It looked like just a big, giant, long, weird old optic. But anyhow,
it was funny. It was funny.
I love lamp.
How about a sword umbrella?
That's interesting. They make those things. Well, I don't know about the sword portion, but maybe they do. I saw some advertising for something where it was an umbrella that was like a fighting umbrella or something with a knife on the end of it. I don't know.
Well, like on the Kingsman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So are you saying you have a sword umbrella?
Yeah, probably 10 feet away from me.
Grab it. Let me see it. I want to see it. I love that.
Show it off. Show it off.
Watch him come on.
First time someone demos a sword umbrella on our show.
Okay, so it's got a
Ooh.
That would still be a cane sword because people use umbrellas as canes, right?
That's kind of it. But, in case it gets a little bit, rainy out there, I figured I'd have an umbrella that did it. Mainly because I'm a Sherlock Holmes fan and I have my Bobby helmet and my Persian slipper up there and my British Bulldog revolver. And my buddies buy me all this stuff. And I'm like, what am I going to do with another sword cane?
Another? How many you got?
I think I've got 4, including that sword umbrella. So 3 canes and 1 umbrella.
That's cool.
That's very cool.
I have stuff everywhere. My gun room just has to be, my secure vault plus the guns, of course, usually go in storage, and got too many goodies in this room.
Interesting. What's the biggest, other than the cannon, what's the biggest caliber you've shot?
Like 470 nitro.
Ooh.
Elephant type of stuff.
Yeah. See, mine's 4570. That's I'm loving this 4570 from Carr Magnum Research.
They're pretty cool, those BFRs.
Yeah. Big frame revolver.
Yeah, big frame. Yeah. Beep.
There's the beep.
There's the beep moment.
I had one guy shot at, I did a law enforcement certification a couple years ago, probably about a year and a half ago. And one of the guys shot and he had gloves on, and I said, dude, you got to hold it. You got to hold it hard. And he's holding it, and it went right out of his one hand and jumped just like that. He didn't let go of it, but it came, one hand popped right off there. And he was like, holy crap, I can't believe it recoiled that much.
Well, it's a rifle round and a revolver, man. I think they're nuts to make it, but they're cool.
Yeah, it's not that fun to shoot, that's for sure.
No.
How many times did you shoot it?
I shot yours, 2 or 3 times up there.
Was it 2 or 3?
Yeah, the last time I was up there, yeah.
I shoot it one-handed, man. That's fun. I like shooting one-handed. It's like...
So speaking of Top Shot people, I actually in person met Gabby 3 days ago.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
cool.
She was shooting a competition at a range where I was teaching an instructor development course, and I found out she was there. So I went over, and she has been on the show, and I never met her in person, but I couldn't believe how tiny she was.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's pretty compact, isn't she?
Yeah. I would have liked to have been able to sit and watch her shoot because she's an animal, but I didn't get to do that. I had to go back and teach, but it's pretty cool to meet her.
She's got one heck of a competitive spirit in her, but she's one of the sweetest ladies ever. And one of the most talented shooters I've ever met. I love Gabby.
Hey everyone, it's Ashley Hlebinsky, firearms historian. Check me out on Instagram at History and Heels. This is Meet the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Klint Macro.
Meet the Pressers.
What would be, if someone in Nevada, what would you recommend that they get involved with? What's the local organization, the state organization in Nevada that people should patronize, get involved with, and support?
It's called Nevada Firearms Coalition. And they do the best they can to ward off our our governor, Sisolak, is all he does is look over next door what Gavin Newsom's doing. And he goes, that sounds good.
Jeez.
And I don't think he's had an original thought himself his entire life. He just kind of goes with the flow or where the, money leads. But we try to fight him off, but it's been pretty rough the last several years.
Yeah, rough everywhere. Yeah, we're definitely under assault.
Oh, absolutely.
Most
Yeah,
definitely.
it's not. I always tell my students it's not a good time in society politically to be a good guy, but it's better than the alternative.
Well, we, part
Very
of
well
our
said.
job is as educators, we educate people in exercising their Second Amendment right. They're armed. We want them to be well regulated, but part of that is to protect their own right. And too often people will trip all over themselves to touch a new gun, but try to get them to make a phone call, send an email, write a letter to a legislator to try to educate them or keep them in check. And like gun owners don't do that. So I think we all have to step up and support the local organizations and really get behind them and help them to re-educate and fight where they need to locally.
I'm a huge fan, that's it. What do we have? About 100 gun owners in this country and 5.5 million NRA people. I mean, the numbers don't compute. Not enough people want to get involved. And of course, that's at the national level and they've had their bad and good. But I mean, if the biggest organization is getting 5.5% ownership, what's a local organization going to get?
Yeah. Yeah. We actually did real well in Pennsylvania in the last election, strangely enough. With all the hanky-panky that went on down ballot, like we did really well, and we actually gained a few seats in the assembly and the Senate. Firearms Owners Against Crimes, our Pennsylvania organization, and we are a nonpartisan. But we support pro-gun candidates, and frankly, the majority of them were Republican. We have one pro-gun Democrat left, but the rest were all Republican, and they all did very well, which is kind of like, how did this blue wave happen? But down ballot, all these Republicans still won seats in the state. Now, that's another.
You said it's called hanky panky.
Hanky panky, yeah.
Yeah.
So both of you guys too, when you had mentioned, Klint, you specifically had mentioned talking to your students and such. I've personally kind of changed. Years ago, I used to lay it out. I make Hillary jokes, and I didn't really give a crap.
No, you can't do that. No. Not now.
Well, that's my point. Yeah. So you both, obviously based on your response, Klint, you've also kind of changed the way that you say things and word things because of the new influx of different types of people coming into your classes. I would agree. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. I wasn't really a big thumper for like red or Republican or blue or Democrat prior to that. I've always been kind of sensitive to that being in the music industry.
Good point.
So I would just push liberty. And, if you saw my speech from the Second Amendment rally, the virtual one this year, it's like, I don't really care who you vote for, but vote for someone that's going to promote the free exercise of the rights and liberties of all Americans. And if your candidate or if the person that you're considering voting is advocating for the limitation of any right, then that really shouldn't be a candidate that you should support. And oftentimes, we know that, a lot of times those folks are not blue and not Democrat, but quite frankly, I'm reasonably pissed off at the Republicans that are in office. They're not doing their job. They're not fighting for what they claim they stand for, and they're just capitulating.
Well, John Kakko is our big one here. John Kakko voted for the impeachment. He's taken whatever side. I just got an email the other day, yesterday or the day before, from him, from his campaign, asking to do a survey, asking where I lean. Am I a blue dog Democrat, a conservative? Am I a liberal? They got this whole list of all different political persuasions. So now, because everybody's calling his office and complaining about his votes, Republicans calling his office complaining, now he wants to find out, okay, where does he sit, because he wants to make sure he panders to the biggest crowd. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. That's a good way to do it. And out here, it's just like I make a very, very big point when we, project up there the Second Amendment right with the beginner class. It's just like, I'm a libertarian, man. I want less government. I want more rights. I want the rights we actually have preserved by our legal documents given to everybody. And that when we talk laws in here, we'll have to talk about liberal, conservative, because those are the two parties fighting. But you make your own decision on what's right and wrong. And when you explain things like castle law and stand your ground and the states that no longer have them, and you do them in a storyboard, even the people that come that are probably more leaning left are like, oh, that's terrible. Why don't I have that? I'm like, because states like California have taken them away.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I've got them on my side politically, well, for the one issue.
Right.
And I went over their trust in that way. I have a great story, and it was just one that happened in Oklahoma where a young man defended his home with an AR-15, and I don't even tell him that. I tell him the whole story and what goes on, and they're like, oh yeah, absolutely, good case of self-defense, and you make your legal points as you go. And then I say, well, it got famous in the news media, of course, the left-leaning media, because it was an AR-15 rifle. And I was like, does it make any difference to you what kind of weapon this young man used to defend himself? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, well, I gotcha. Again, It's not about the weapon, it's how it's used. And if people are using it to quote unquote assault and they're bad stuff, then absolutely that person shouldn't have a gun. But the rest of us, target shooting, enjoying our responsible right to own guns.
That's a great way to do it. You get them, you draw them in, and then at the end you tell them what weapon they use, and it makes them think a little bit better about it.
Yeah.
And you go,
that's what happened when 4-on-1.
What was that?
That's what happened when this case was a 4-on-1 disparity on bad guys to good guys. And they're like, well, probably needed a gun like that if you're dealing with multiple bad guys all at one time and almost an ambush.
Do you stay primarily locally to do the classes, or do you travel at all?
I'm fortunate enough right now that I can actually fill classrooms here every Saturday and every Sunday. And it's been like that since I met you in Utah.
Amen.
7 years ago. I think last year I did a total of 87 classes throughout the year. So I stayed pretty much right here in Reno.
That's respectable. So could you tell our audience how they can get a hold of you or check you out or follow you or anything like that?
Stalking.
Absolutely. I'm on Facebook, Top Shot Firearms and Training, LLC. Also on, of course, website with all my class schedule services. I buy and sell guns for folks all the time. I'm always dealing with cool collectibles. Hit Facebook and on my website is probably the best way.
Cool.
Super. Well, it's awesome having you on, my friend. Good seeing you again. Hopefully we can
good to see you.
Catch up again and do something, maybe bring you out this way if you have a lull in your time.
I'll find some time to actually come see you. It's been too long.
Cool. Yeah, maybe we'll have you stay up in our guest house. We got a lodge that we rent out on Airbnb.
I was gonna say, I've seen you actually working. You're like a backwoods farm guy. You know, he's got tractors and cool stuff going. I'm kind of jealous. I'd like to live all by myself in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, well, we're not in the middle of nowhere, but we try to make it as far off the beaten path as we can. We got an 800-foot driveway, so that's a start.
I was gonna say, it makes it look like it's in the middle of nowhere. That's the more important thing.
Very true.
Klint, very good to talk to you, and thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, very nice to meet you, and wish you all the best of luck.
Yeah, you guys too. Awesome. I'll stay tuned to the show. Can't wait to actually see what's next.
Thank you, sir. Take care. Stay safe.
All right, you guys too.
Yep. Hey, Klint, I like that shirt. Why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners about that shirt? It's a pretty darn good shirt right there.
That's a nice shirt. Nice shirt. Actually, this shirt was your idea, was it not?
I think it was. Yeah. I do declare. Eclair. I'm hungry. I was say lunchtime. But yes, yeah. I do declare.
Well, people can get a shirt just like this if they go on to our Ballistic Inc. Meet the Pressers page.
You got it.
Yeah, and you can get a shirt like this or the one like you're wearing too.
Yep.
Yeah, you can sport your Meet the Pressers logoed gear and be the coolest kid on your block.
As well as we have Trigger Pressers Union and PS&Ed memorabilia or shirts, merch for you to pick up too.
And you'll shoot your eye out, kid. Your other shirt design.
Yes, the other shirt design. So it's got Daisy Red Ryder BB gun. I love my fully semi-automatic assault rifle. Don't shoot your eye out. Pick it up.
There's lots of sponsors that make this show possible, like Mountain Man Medical.
Check them out and give them your business.
This episode is brought to you by Steel City Ammunition. Can't find ammo? We've got it. We'll ship it and our prices are fair. Mountain Man Medical. The right medical training and gear should be accessible to every American. Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Meet the Pressers is also generously supported by other fine companies, ranges, and our Patreon members. Thank you.
Thanks for watching or listening to our show.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, click that little bell thingy so you know when the next episode's uploaded. Support us on Patreon. Come to one of our classes. Host us to come to you and do one of our classes at your location.
And until next time,
adieu.
Thank you for watching Meet the Pressers.